Hey, Amy Alexander here with Story Collaborative. I'm in the HubSpot Content Assistant beta, and I wanted to show you around the back end how the tool's working, some of its limitations. Let's start in the blog hub of HubSpot. So if I want to go and edit existing content, if I open up something that I've already written or I'm in the middle of writing, this one I published a few days back, it's important to note that you cannot use the Content Assistant inside just any editing space. It has to be inside the rich text editor of the blog. For instance, our blog right here, this headline is tied to the settings here. So whatever I write here will populate this box and vice versa. So this is not a rich text editing box. Nothing's going to happen if I highlight the text here. When I get into the rich text editing box and I highlight something, I'm going to see this little icon come up. That is the Content Assistant. I can do a few things to existing content. I can rewrite, expand, summarize, or change the tone to some of their preset tonality changes. So let's go down here. If I highlight this headline, if I press rewrite, it has no context for whether this needs to be a short headline or a long headline. It doesn't even know that it's an H2. So sometimes when I highlight my headlines and I ask for it to rewrite, it's going to spit me back a paragraph. In this case, it actually did a really good job of keeping it relatively short. Let's try this headline. This is an H3. Let's see what happens if I rewrite. Okay, so that spit back an entire paragraph. That's not going to work for my H3 headline. So one of the things you have to understand about using AI, especially in this context, when we're all still connecting to GPT-4 and figuring out how to use it with the technology we already use, is that you have to learn how to command GPT-4. So because this is a short headline, and I need it to stay short, but GPT-4 is not somehow all-knowing, or Content Assistant in this case is not somehow all-knowing, although we all know it's using the power of GPT-4, I have to give it contextual clues to make it do what I want it to do. So that's partly why I think they have the summarize and the expand options. Of course, these are great things and you can use them in other places, but these are context clues for the AI assistant to do what you need it to do. In this case, if I wrote summarize, I would not only get a rewritten version, but I'm going to get a short rewritten version. Now, it's still not short enough, but you get the point. If I keep scrolling down here and I have bullet points, you'll see another limitation of Content Assistant is that it's not going to spit, if I choose rewrite, it's not going to spit back bullets. It would be so cool if it did, but it doesn't. It's going to spit back a paragraph. So you're going to do better highlighting one of these bullets and then rewriting that, expanding, summarizing, or changing the tone of specific pieces of content. Down here, I noticed a really good use case for the Content Assistant on existing content. So I had originally written this a little bit differently. Let me just put that in here the way I had originally written it. So the way that I wrote it the first time was really bad. When you write this way, it sounds like, note that brand storytelling does not mean you'll be using videos to tell stories. The entire article is about how to use videos. So what I really meant, what I wrote this was, note that the brand storytelling does not mean you'll be using videos to tell stories. But of course, that's not what it actually sounds like. That's not really the grammar of this sentence. So when I went to rewrite it, and then I expanded upon it and I summarized it and I changed the tone, I tried all this stuff and it kept spitting back the wrong meaning. It kept spitting back the idea that videos won't be used to tell stories. So that cued to me, I wrote this poorly and I need to write it in a more clarifying way so that what it spits back is more accurate and actually has the meaning I intended. So using the tool will help you clarify your own writing, and it will help you find shortcomings or places that you need to improve. The tonality change command is actually pretty good. So if I use witty, which is a really fun one, it says, but let's get real. Brand storytelling doesn't have to be all about spinning yarns in your videos. Okay, that's so great. And it now has the meaning that it was always intended. So some of the tonality ones are really fun and very clever. I happen to like witty writing, so that works really well. So that's a use case for existing content. The other thing you can do down here, let's say that I've written my article, but oh my gosh, now I have to write a conclusion article. I hate the conclusion paragraphs. If I write / it's going to generate a paragraph or generate a conclusion. So those are ways you can use existing content. Just do a / let's generate a conclusion. I have to give it a command around what the conclusion should be about, which I'm not going to do right now. But you do have to give it context. It's not going to go read everything that's been written so far. So if I leave this and I just open up a brand new blog, I made this one earlier. There's nothing in it. And if I do this / I can actually generate an outline or even just ideas. So let's say that I know I want to talk about rebranding, but I don't know specifically what. I can say, give me ideas about a blog that talks about the pros and cons of rebranding. Now that's a pretty specific prompt. You could give it something a little more general because that's already an idea. But here's a few things I could write that are a little more specific, like the psychology of rebranding, how consumers respond to change, rebranding in the digital age, opportunities and challenges for businesses. These are pretty good titles. It helps that I gave it a pretty specific idea. Other thing I can do here is generate an outline. So I'm going to go ahead and insert the benefits and risks. If I highlight this, let's see if it inserts all of it. Okay, so it inserted all of it. Now I need to choose one. I'm going to get rid of all of these. And now I'm going to ask it to write me an outline about this topic. So I'm going to copy and just wanted to see if I clicked on that icon, if it would give me an outline option, but it didn't. Okay, if I / create, generate outline, write an SEO friendly outline about, and then I paste the benefits, right? There's my title, generate. It's going to generate it all within this box, and then I need to insert it to use it. Within this outline, it's giving me not only headline, H2s, H3s, but it's also saying, hey, you need to explore topics around the definition, the reasons for rebranding, the types of rebranding. So now if I highlight that and ask it to expand, let's see what happens. So now I'm going to replace that outline prompt with an expansion of the concept, which is actually starting to be an article. So you could do that for each of these specific things. Another thing to note is that there is no copy and paste. So if I ask it to expand upon this and it writes that inside this box, I have to insert it. I can't just insert it below or above, right? So that's important to know that there might be times when you want to take something you've already said, like an opening sentence, copy and paste that opening sentence, and then expand using the tool. But you have to do it by copying and pasting in your rich text editor. Okay, so you've seen how to use it in existing content. You've seen how to make it faster to write new content. It can also help you inside web pages and inside your email. So let's go to a web page. Now we're in the CMS hub. And let's see what happens if I edit this. Now, it's important to note, this particular theme is called Growth, I think. It's one of the really base, cheap, or free themes you can get in HubSpot. We use something called Sprocket Rocket, and I'll show you how that works in the back end also. What works really well for a content assistant with these kinds of themes is that there's rich text boxes right here on the page. So you're able to highlight all of this inside the editor and start working on your content. If I highlight both the headline and the paragraph below. Now, remember I mentioned Content Assistant has no idea whether you're highlighting a headline or not. There's no contextual clues. You have to tell it to be short or long. But when I highlight both the headline and the paragraph underneath, let's see what happens if I ask it to maybe rewrite. So because About Us is a really common headline, and because I highlighted both About Us and the paragraph below, it sorted out those context clues and gave me a headline with something underneath it. The other thing it did, which is crazy, is that I asked it to rewrite lorem ipsum, which of course we all know is gibberish. So it wrote something totally new, knowing it was supposed to be an About Us intro. It says, at our core, we believe that every great experience starts with a story. That's why we're passionate about sharing ours with you. Wow, that's actually a pretty good intro. And then it stuck the lorem ipsum below that because it didn't know what to do with it. Let's see what happens when I do something like our values. Let me highlight both the headline and the text below. I'll ask it to rewrite. Okay, in this instance, it did not show that it knows it's a headline. Our values, though a very common headline on many websites, still was not a headline to the Content Assistant. It just wrote a bunch of sentences. But again, it was mostly lorem ipsum, and the our values queued it off enough to write a pretty fine value statement. So it's scary, but there you go. Okay, you can see how easy and fast it is to work inside the back end of your CMS if you're using one of the more standard themes or a theme that has the rich text editor page. If I'm doing Sprocket Rocket, which is the theme that we use, we actually have to do most of our editing inside modules. Now, Sprocket Rocket is a really, really well-built theme. There's a ton you can do to it. It's better built than, obviously, free themes, but you do have to use the module editors on the left. So if I click here, you can see that there's a headings box that is not a rich text editor. So if I had anything in here, the Content Assistant is never going to show up because it's not a rich text editor. So if I go down here to this left column, I want to change so much as writing on digital performance. And if I highlight that, I'm in a rich text editor, so now the Content Assistant does show up. Let's change the tone to witty. That's my favorite. Don't let digital performance fall flat. So much is at stake. It's pretty good, pretty good. So you can see how it works in here. You just have to make sure you're in a rich text editor, and it will work like everything else. Note that the same thing is true for the /. It's going to help you generate content for your page, which is also really cool. In this instance, it knows it's not in the blog. It's actually in the CMS. So it's going to help you generate headings, paragraphs, and subsections. Let's generate a heading. Not much of a heading if you ask me. It's really long, but it is in there. So hopefully these limitations are things that will get improved. But you can see the functionality does exist in there. All right, let's go over to your email and we'll see how that works. So of course I can highlight something and I'm in a rich text editor. So the Content Assistant shows up. I can ask it to rewrite things like that. If I do a / inside email, nothing happens. It doesn't know what to do with that. So the / command does not work inside your email, but all the other rewriting Content Assistant type tools do work on existing content. It's going to help you write better headlines, write better copy in general, which is really great. So there's Content Assistant in the back end of HubSpot. Obviously, this is beta, so there's a ton that we want to have change and improve. It has limitations, but it's a really fun start. I highly recommend that you go and get yourself on the waitlist. That's what I did, and I got in pretty fast. So I recommend doing it, playing around, and the more users that use the beta, the better data they'll have and the better tool they're going to make for us. That's what we want. All right, guys, thanks for watching.